You will see two copies of the standards on the website. One is the final version and one is the training copy. The training copy will help you to identify changes made to the standards this year. Language that is highlighted in gray indicates a clarification. Text highlighted in yellow is new language added to the standards. There are new standards this year, so the numbering has also changed from previous years. In this training, we'll not cover every change that was made. Instead, we'll highlight those with the most significant updates. Before we begin, just a couple of things to keep in mind. After each section of the standards, you will be prompted to pause so that you can write down any questions you might have before moving to the next section. It may be helpful to print out the training copy so that you can follow along. You will have the opportunity to ask your questions live during our office hours. The registration link will be available at the end of this presentation. If you have questions you want to be sure that we cover during office hours, you can submit them in advance to the ECAP inbox. Please put the subject line 2023-2024 ECAP Performance Standards so that they are routed correctly. Let's get started. Intent and authority. This section covers the intent and authority behind the ECAP Performance Standards and provides definitions for terms used throughout this document. Affirmative action has been defined previously in the standards, but alternative attendance plan and child-focused response plan are new definitions. Later in the standards, both of these definitions add new language to the standards. Cultural or culturally means relating to the ideas, customs, and social behavior of all communities. Culturally relevant means children see and experience themselves, their families, and culture in the classrooms. They experience their full identities affirmed. Culturally responsive means teachers and staff weave children's cultural ways of knowing into the teaching, finding what works for each child. Two new definitions are isolation, which means purposefully leaving a child unsupervised to de-escalate due to behavior. Restraint means to bind or restrict a child's movement or forcibly move them to another area. Clarifications to this standard are that contractors may not deny services or discriminate against any family or child's health, veteran status, or stages of child development, including toilet learning. Also in this standard is a written policy that includes, but is not limited to, how families may submit a complaint, organization's timeline for responding, steps the organization will take for resolution, how the organization will respond to the family, and a process for who to contact at DCYF if a complaint remains unresolved. You have reached the end of this section. You may want to pause the presentation to allow time to write down any questions you have or to go back and listen to a particular standard again. Child outcomes. Positive child outcomes are supported by the requirement that all children in ECAP receive an approved developmental screening, followed by developmental monitoring through the use of ongoing, culturally aware observation and assessment to track children's development. Referrals for further evaluation are provided if needed. Staff partner with families throughout this process. Ongoing observation and assessment of each child by qualified, culturally responsive classroom staff ensures that needs are identified and children and families receive the support they need as they move through ECAP and transition into kindergarten. CO1, Developmental Screening and Referrals. Item 1. Contractors must conduct a developmental screening of each child with parental consent within 45 calendar days, counting a child's first day attending class as day 1. This screening is required only once per child while in ECAP and is followed by quarterly assessment of child development. Item 7C is a clarification that contractors must obtain a copy of the current IEP and retain it in the child's file. CO2, Transition Plan. Effective transitions create continuity in the growth and development of children and the cultivation of relationships that begin at birth and extend long into a child's life. Successful transitions include the child, family, early care and education providers, pre-K and school district staff, and the larger community. 1A clarifies that the transition plan includes from home, another contractor, or other early learning center. Item 1C is the same language as the child transitions out of an ECAP classroom. CO5, individualization. Individual care plan was added here for clarity. The new requirement is the Child Focus Response Plan, formerly Positive Behavior Support Plan. This is a new standard that we will review in the IC section. You have reached the end of this section. You may want to pause the presentation to allow time to write down any questions you have or to go back and listen to a particular standard again. Family engagement and partnerships. Relationship-based family partnerships are an essential component of ECAP comprehensive services. A contractor must integrate parent and family engagement strategies into all systems and program services to support family well-being. Using mobility mentoring, an innovative two-generation approach that addresses the prevalent needs of families, ECAP staff collaborate with families to build partnerships that engage families in many levels of program activities and support the development of each enrolled child's whole family. Begin the mobility mentoring bridge and assessment as early in the program year as possible. The goal-setting process continues for as long as the family participates in the program based on parent interest and need. These practices include identifying and interrupting biases with awareness building, listening to families about their experiences, training, and staff accountability. The result of anti-bias practices is creating and fostering responsive environments in which all children and their families experience an unconditional sense of belonging and acceptance. In FEP2 and in FEP4, the word only was added to both standards to clarify that phone or email contact may be used in place of face-to-face visits only for additional conferences, follow-up conversations, or during non-traditional remote services. See PAO 65. FEP3, Parent-Teacher Conference Content. Item 2D, language added clarifies that contractors must individualize transition planning with families. FEP5, Family Support Visit Content. We have added a new chart to the standards that replaces the narrative. We hope this makes it easier for direct service providers to identify mobility mentoring timelines. FEP6, Health Coordination Services for Families. ECAP follows a medical home model which provides comprehensive health services, coordinates needed services, and helps families learn the best ways to help their child grow up healthy. It is crucial to link families to a medical home that best serves children's needs by providing continuous, accessible medical care. In 1E, the requirement was added to ensure staff follow recommendations from the child's licensed or certified medical, mental health, dental, and educational providers. You have reached the end of this section. You may want to pause the presentation to allow time to write down any questions you have or to go back and listen to a particular standard again. IC2, Individual Care Plan. Item 1 clarifies adding appropriate consultants to the partnership with families and contractors. Item 1AI clarifies including but not limited to the training listed. Item 1B clarifies the responsibility to follow the recommendations of the child's licensed or certified practitioner. Additions to the individual care plan include Item 3D, Individual Meal Plan, 3E, Child Focus Response Plan, previously Positive Behavior Support Plan, And item 4, individual care plan must be updated annually or more frequently as changes occur and signed by the parent or guardian. IC3, Curriculum. Contractor and subcontractor sites run by tribal sovereign nations have the option to design curriculum based in traditional knowledge. Tribes will complete the Tribal Curriculum Recognition Request form and provide clarifying information requested by DCYF before the tribal curriculum is implemented. IC12, Child Guidance, Physical Restraint. This reflects clarifications in the standard that were moved from policy to practice. IC13, No Expulsion. This standard clarifies that limiting choices to options that don't meet a family's needs is expulsion. IC16, Daily Routine. Here we clarify outdoor playtime requirements to the minimum standard set by the Washington Administrative Code. Alternative attendance plans have been required for many years. This update provides clarity, and we hope the added detail in this standard helps providers when they need to implement AAPs. IC17, Alternative Attendance Plan. Alternative attendance plans are time-limited plans that ensure the continued comprehensive services for an ECAP child. The goal is to serve the child and family fully, both in the ECAP classroom and through education, family, and health services. This means any instruction or experience the child misses due to their absence is provided for in the AAP. An alternative attendance plan must be created for a child who is unable or unavailable to attend the full ECAP hours for reasons including but not limited to receiving IEP services in an alternative setting, receiving support services, extended absence, or providing a longer transition to the full scheduled class hours. If an alternative plan is needed, contractors must request an alternative attendance plan in ELMS and receive approval from DCYF ECAP prior to implementing the plan. Alternative attendance plans must be developed and adjusted in partnership with the child's family, include the beginning and end date for the AAP, and provide continued comprehensive services including education, health, and family support. If an alternative attendance plan relates to behavior, contractors must engage the support of an infant and early childhood mental health consultant to have them complete a classroom and/or child observation as appropriate. When needed, create a child-focused response plan with the mental health consultant and the family, and partner with the family to establish a timeline that includes a plan for intentional transition to a longer day for the child. IC18 Child-Focused Response Plan. 1. Child-focused response plans should be developed in collaboration with infant and early childhood mental health consultants, other professionals, families, and additional ECAP contractor staff as appropriate. The joint effort focuses on the strengths of the child and family. Child-focused response plans must honor cultural or traditional practices. This may include, but is not limited to, support plans written in a home language and traditional practices in mental health. If a parent declines to participate in the development of a plan or suggested supports, contractors must work with their CQI specialist on additional resources, supports, and options. If contractors have implemented their usual strategies and the classroom is still unsafe or excessively disrupted, or if they are unable to access the support of an infant and early childhood mental health consultant, they are encouraged to contact DCYF ECAP for technical assistance. To ensure equitable access to ECAP programming, contractors will partner with teachers, support staff, and families and meet to highlight the child's strengths and focus on supports being implemented. DCYF ECAP requires contractors to document efforts made to support the child and family. Contractors must seek support from their CQI specialist and obtain approval before implementing any alternative attendance plan. You have reached the end of this section. You may want to pause the presentation to allow time to write down any questions you have or to go back and listen to a particular standard again. Program Administration and Oversight. This section includes key components to administering ECAP, such as Policy Council, Continuous Quality Improvement, Service Delivery, Recruitment, Eligibility, Enrollment, and Attendance. The Program Administration and Oversight section also includes key policy and record-keeping standards. The majority of standards from this point forward have been renumbered. PA01 Facilities. This section clarifies that when a contractor submits a site approval and a CQI specialist approves a new site, the contractor will receive a confirmation email that the site is approved. PA02 Service Area Agreement. This language was moved from the contract into the performance standards. Throughout PA05, 7, 8, and 9, the word parent has been replaced with the word families to better reflect the diversity of ECAP families. PA017 Health Screening. Height and weight screening have been removed from the standards. This does not prevent an ECAP provider from collecting heights and weights. It is no longer a requirement in the standards. PA027 Child Guidance Restraint and Isolation Policy. This language was previously part of another standard. It has been clarified and edited to become its own standard. PA028 Health and Safety Policies and Procedures. Item 1F reads, Diapering, Toileting, and Toilet Learning. We have received a number of questions from contractors about children who are toilet learning. ECAP serves children 3 to 5 years old who span a range of developmental levels. Children cannot be denied enrollment based on whether or not they are potty trained. In order to provide more clarity in our standards, we included language from the WAC for child care here that requires programs to have written health and safety policies and procedures on diapering, toileting, and toilet learning. PA029 Required Postings. The new requirement in this standard is to have the complaint process posted where families can. PAO 30, Early Childhood Education Service Delivery. Item 2A, IV, reads Part Day classrooms that have closures that cause them to fall below 360 hours must develop a plan in advance to ensure they meet the minimum annual dosage requirements. V, contractors must provide families in advance an annual calendar with planned days of closure. 2BV, school day classrooms that have closures that cause them to fall below 1,000 hours must develop a plan in advance to ensure they meet minimum annual dosage requirements. VI, contractors must provide families in advance an annual calendar with planned days of closure. This standard clarifies the need to develop a plan in advance for closures. Part day and school day have the same requirement. PAO 30, Childhood Education Service Delivery. Item 3, both working day and school day classes may modify instruction and class schedules during A, tribal, state, and federal holidays, B, tribal government closures, C, tribal cultural events, D, school breaks, and item E, staff professional development and wellness activities approved by DCYF if proposed activities result in a contractor being unable to meet the minimum annual dosage requirements. Item E supports contractors' need for professional development and wellness activity time. PAO 31, Comprehensive Services. For clarity, we have included mental health services. PAO 35, Community Assessment. You will notice throughout the recruitment, eligibility, and enrollment standards, the same change has been made. Replacing the term homeless or homelessness with McKinney-Vento eligible often results in better identification of families' eligibility for services. PAO 36, ECAP Self-Assessment. Item 2, ECAP self-assessment process must include A, ECAP director surveys, and B, family surveys. This means that contractors must include family voice as well as the director's experience in the self-assessment process. Contractors do not submit these surveys in the assessment due on June 15th. PAO 41, Verifying Eligibility. Item 4. Contractors must write and implement a verification procedure for enrollment of all children that avoids conflicts of interest and ensures staff do not verify eligibility for close relations or for their own children. PAO 52, Enrollment. Item C. Consider a slot full when a child attends class in person and their actual start date is entered in ELMS. Item D. Create an enrollment policy with processes for application completions and enrollment timelines. The policy must include how the program will plan for and implement accommodations for children with developmental delays or disabilities and/or individual care plans, and ensure enrollment timelines in 1A through C are met. Item E. Contact their CQI specialist for support when they are unable to fill a vacant slot within the 30-day timeline, or if timelines were not met and there are vacant slots with children on the wait list.
PAO 54, free of charge. 1A reads, if the contractor receives Working Connections childcare or tribal CCDF subsidy for the child, they may I. Charge the allowable family copayment. II. Charge a late fee if the family is late in picking up their child beyond the 10-hour day. PAO PAO 55, Subcontractors. From the old standard, subsection 1 was moved into the contract. Former subsection 2 was broken into A and B for clarity. PAO 56, Family and Community Concerns and Complaints. An effective concern and complaints process supports the DCYF ECAP's objective of strengthening the quality of services and responsiveness to families and communities. DCYF ECAP uses the information provided through its concerns and complaints procedures as an opportunity for continuous improvement of its services and performance. The policy is intended to ensure all family and community concerns are addressed promptly, equitably, and respectfully so that a resolution is reached at the contractor level whenever possible. PAO 50
Item 1. Contractors must develop a written policy and procedure for family and community complaints. Item 2. The policy must be accessible to families, staff, and volunteers through the program Family Handbook and website. Content must be translated into the family's home language or provide interpreter supports when needed to ensure meaningful access and culturally responsive practices. Clear and easy to understand, which could include simplified language, illustrations, diagrams, or images. Item 3. The policy and procedure must include how families and community members submit a complaint. B. The organization's timeline for responding. C. Steps the organization will take for resolution. D. How the organization will respond to the complaint. E. What to do if timelines are exceeded or if the complaint is unresolved. F. Who to contact at the contractor level if the complaint is unresolved at the site level. G. How families or community members contact the state ECAP office via the ECAP inbox if a complaint is unresolved at the contractor level. H. How confidentiality will be respected and maintained. I. Annual review by Policy Council, CPAO 31. Four, contractors must document complaints, including resolution of substantiated complaints. 5, if resolution of a complaint cannot be reached, contractors must notify the DCYF ECAP. 6, in the event of a family community complaint made directly to the DCYF ECAP, the ECAP administrator will reach out to the ECAP director to gather more information and identify next steps. The ECAP administrator will work with ECAP contractor directors to ensure the complaint is resolved at the contractor level whenever possible. 7, at no time will a complaint compromise a family's ability to access services or impact the staff-child or staff-family interactions negatively.
PAO 60, Documentation Requirements. Contractors must ensure subcontractors' compliance with ECAP documentation standards. PAO 65, Early Achievers Participation. Language here moved from the contract into the performance standards. PAO 66 Continuous Quality Improvement Visit. This standard was rewritten for clarity with subsection 2 added.
Now that you've completed this training, we have several resources we would like to share with you. You may download the ECAP performance standards from our website at DCYF ECAP. DCYF will hold office hours on Zoom to answer any questions you may have. Please send questions in advance of office hours to ecap@dcyf.wa.gov so that we are sure to have your answers available. If you still have questions about standards and are unable to attend the office hours, please reach out to your ECAP administrators. If you have remaining questions following this pre-recorded orientation, we invite you to join DCYF ECAP staff in optional office hours on Friday, June 2nd from 10 a.m. to noon or Friday, June 9th from 10 a.m. to noon. You will find a Zoom link available. Beginning in September, each month we will take a deeper dive into each section of the standards. Look for more information to come. A Zoom link will be available on the DCYF ECAP webpage.